Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Monday edition of Talkback. The first half hour, sponsored by Bitterroot Motors, where they've been doing it right for more than 42 years. Also brought to you by Temp Ride Service, call Team Blue 728-1111, or the Mustard Seed Restaurant, located in Southgate Mall. Hey, so glad to have you along this morning. We are running the sick ward here today. Our friend John King, your whole family came down with the creeping crud.
Yeah, my littlest one, Isaiah, got the flu, I think, Thursday.
Oh, boy.
Quickly spread it to mom,
of course,
and everybody else.
Yes.
So
it's the gift. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Yeah.
So on Friday, I was feeling pretty good. I was up and at 'em. I was making dinners and breakfasts and everything, and then
kaboom.
Friday night hit me too. So it's a pretty horrible disease. Let me tell you. I don't think I've ever been bedridden for more than a day.
How long does it take to knock you out? I mean, I haven't had the flu for a long time. Fingers, toes crossed. Right now.
Actually, I'm not sure I've had it before.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you get a shot?
I did not. No.
You didn't get vaccinated. Okay.
But it made me dizzy, which was weird.
Right.
Not being able to
So you had vertigo.
A little bit, yeah. Right. And
that's what happens. Most people, when they're in my presence, they
well, you are so so awesome.
Yeah, there you go.
It's hard to stand in the presence of Peter Christian.
Whatever. Yeah. So anyway, I have a story. I hope you're feeling better, and I hope your family's feeling better. And everybody out there with the flu, gosh, I hope you feel better. Listen, if you have the flu, don't go to work. Okay? Everything all right? Oh, here. If you have the flu, don't go to work. Don't go to school. Stay home and keep it from spreading. That's what all the health people tell me. If you haven't gotten a flu shot yet, it's still not too late. If you believe in flu vaccines, you should get one. If you don't believe in them, then don't get one. But if you do get sick, stay away from people. So we'll try to cover all the bases here. Got a news story here. I thought it might be interesting. It's kind of close to home. Actually, it comes out of Billings. I'm just going to read you the story. And you guys, I would appreciate your comment to see what you think about this. The Montana High School Association is considering a policy that would allow transgender student athletes to compete on the team that matches their gender identity. The proposed policy would enable Montana teens who were born male but identify as female to compete in girls' events. And conversely, would allow those who were born female but identify as male to compete in boys' events. MHSA Executive Director Mark Beckman says at least 33 other states have such policies in place. I did not know that. So there you go. Beckman told the Billings Gazette that the association has never been notified of a request or disputes regarding transgender athletes in Montana schools. What hasn't happened yet, this is what you might call a preemptive strike. Now, it hasn't been approved yet, but they are considering that policy. It says MSHA schools will vote on the change during the organization's annual meeting January 19th up at Kalispell. Approval requires a 2/3 vote. So I'm wondering, what do you think about this? Is this something that is, do you think it's legitimate? Do you think it's, now let's be honest. There are young girls who compete in wrestling. Right? They compete against the boys, and some of them do very, very well. I don't know of very many boys who are allowed to compete on the girls' basketball team or girls who are allowed to compete in the boys' basketball. I guess the biggest problem is not necessarily playing the sport itself, but, the changes involved in, dressing rooms, showers, modesty, privacy, all those various issues that come into, playing a sport is more than just playing a sport. It's also the camaraderie of being part of a team. There's, when you compete as a team, you usually get really, really close to each other. You room with each other. You travel together, especially if there's any travel involved. I just see all sorts of complications arising here. So,
yeah, and there's going to be, if there is a kid that has this identity issue,
right,
there's going to be a whole bunch of complications anyway. But frankly, as they had mentioned before, it's not an issue that comes up very often.
Right. Yeah, it hasn't come up yet. So
to make a blanket rule for an exception seems, I don't know.
Well, let's see what Tyler has to say. Morning, Tyler. What's up?
Morning, guys. John, I'm sorry you're feeling sick.
I'm feeling better today.
Good.
He is awfully pale, though. I mean, he's pale anyway, but he's really pale.
I haven't seen sunlight for 2 days. If that's what you're getting,
it might have something to do with it. So, go ahead, Tyler. What's up?
White boy, that's for sure. I'm so frustrated with this. I'm so frustrated with everything that's going on. Our problem as a society is that we can't recognize anything for what it is. We can't recognize men for men. We can't recognize women for women. We can't recognize radical Islamic terrorists that want to kill us. We can't call them for what they are.
Well, everything's relative, Tyler.
Well, everything might be relative, but everything has a name, and if we cannot call evil by its name, we will lose. If we cannot, I think this is all part of social engineering, personally. I think this is all just one great, big, grand experiment to see how far they can push us before somebody snaps and does something stupid. And every time somebody does something stupid, they log it down and then try another experiment. You cannot put kids together and say, I know what you have down there, but you don't really have what you have. You can be whatever you want to be, except what you actually are. What you actually are, you can't be. We can't have that. We can't allow that argument in our society, especially when it comes to, I mean, it extends all the way out to the fight that we're against. We're fighting a global war on terror, and it's played itself out again in our streets across this world. In the Western civilization, people want us dead. And if we refuse to call them terrorists and recognize that it's a sect of one religion, and it's not, every time you bring it up, it's all, well, then the Christians killed so many. And, I mean, like what happened last week. You know, we had a great guest in here, and we're talking great ideas about people actually having a backbone and standing up against the government when they do something stupid and absolutely wrong, and everybody's calling in and asking this guy what his views on abortion are and what are his views on why the Christians killed so many people.
Now, which gentleman are you talking about?
The guest you guys had on was talking about the doctor.
Oh, the minister.
Yeah.
Yeah, the minister. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, you got people calling in, and then it went off on a tangent about philosophical debate on, you know, good versus evil, and, you know, Christians and what all the bad stuff that Christians have done in this world, and that's not the argument. We're having the wrong argument. You know, we keep forgetting what happened in the past with the Christians and whatever they may have been accused of doing. That has nothing to do. Christians aren't going out killing people today. Oh, let's wake up. Let's fight the bad people, you know?
All right, Tyler, thanks for the call, man.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. All right, 721-1290. If you agree, disagree, kind of a little bit further afield than what I thought, but that's okay.
Well, one of the interesting things that happened over the weekend, Unity Rally in France.
Right.
Christians, Muslims, a whole bunch of different people from a bunch of different backgrounds, including head of the Palestinians and the head of the Israelis.
Wow.
So Benjamin Netanyahu and Mahmoud Abbas were both there. We had all kinds of representatives from all over the world, but despite a statement from the president on Friday that we will stand with you, no one from the president's office was actually standing with him at the Unity Rally.
No, they're busy.
I guess so.
They're
anyway,
really busy.
Actually, we know that they weren't.
Yeah,
but we'll talk about that in a few seconds after this quick break.
We got to take a break. We have all three lines open. Open phones till 8:30, by the way, and our good friend Walt Kero will be by because, baby, it's tax time. Tax time. I love tax time. We're going to come right back in a minute. Thanks for joining us here on Talkback. Okay, we're back on Talkback, and now you doing your wonderful producer thing that you always do so well. I've come up with some really good stuff here regarding that big Unity rally they had in Paris, right?
Right. Yeah. So lots of people were commenting that none of the major heads of state from the U.S. came to the Unity rally.
See, the president was busy. Joe Biden was busy. John Kerry obviously busy.
Eric Holder
was
actually in France, in Paris, and didn't go to the Unity rally. So
what was he doing? Having baguettes and lattes?
He was busy doing TV interviews. He did 5 of them that day.
Oh, 5 TV interviews.
Yeah,
I got you. Okay.
And then, but both Kerry and Obama did not. They weren't quote unquote busy. They had open schedules. They couldn't go because of security detail concerns.
Yeah. Well, here's what CNN had to report on the Unity rally with no President Obama.
There were 3.7 million people who turned out today across France to show their unity in the face of terrorism. And joining them were the leaders, the heads of state of some 50 countries, European, Middle Eastern, African. Missing, however, and I heard this from many French participants in the rally, French commentators and others, was the American head of state or vice president or secretary of state. Attorney General Eric Holder is in Paris now for security meetings. He was not at the rally. The most senior American presence was the U.S. ambassador to France. We're joined now by our panel to discuss this and the importance of this. CNN political commentator Buck Sexton, he's also a former counterterrorism analyst for the CIA. Shadi Hamid, he's fellow at the Brookings Institution's Center for Middle East Policy. And joining me here in Paris again, Boston College professor of political science, Jonathan Lawrence. Jonathan, perhaps I could begin with you. That was a visible and a noticeable presence. You know this country well. Was that a mistake for the Obama administration?
I think that it takes so much time to prepare a presidential visit that it would be unrealistic to expect the president to turn up after just a few days. He made a point to go to the French embassy in person, which is really unprecedented. He wrote a long message in their condolences book. Secretary of State Kerry gave a long speech in French that I know that the French people appreciated very much.
Is security a reasonable explanation for not sending the president or the vice president?
I'm not sure it's reasonable in this instance. It's the only explanation, though, that I can think of. And so I guess in that sense, we have to accept it. Maybe security and logistics, as was mentioned before. But given, I think, the gravity of the situation, the fact you have so many other world leaders, as we just saw there, who showed up, and the importance of this event, I think the president, quite honestly, should have been there. I'm waiting for them to give a justification or some kind of rationale as to why they couldn't have the president or somebody of a senior level show up. I think that's the important distinction here. Okay, the president can't go. The Secretary of State can't show up. The vice president can't show up. What would it take to get them there? I mean, this is, I think, an instance where the administration has dropped the ball. And when it comes to foreign relations, particularly foreign relations that deal with our allies, this administration has had problems. And I think this is another instance where that's come up. And I think that they'll look back on this and recognize that it was a mistake.
Okay, here's my question. Who is advising President Obama these days?
Valerie Jarrett.
Do we know? I mean, really? Because
Valerie Jarrett.
Okay, you've got 3.5 million people after one of the most horrific, terrorist attacks on a major world city in Paris. All these people getting together, linking arm in arm. The president of France, Netanyahu, as you had mentioned, all sorts of various organizations.
By the way, both Benjamin Netanyahu and Mahmoud Abbas,
right? People
that other people really want to kill.
Yeah.
So there's got to be security detail for them.
They were all there.
Yeah. So we do have some interesting information out of the White House.
All right.
Quote, according to administration officials, President Obama spent part of Sunday afternoon, this is the day of the Unity rally,
right,
watching an NFL playoff game.
Which one was it?
I don't know.
Was it the Dallas Green Bay game? Well, now I can understand this now. All right. And let me tell you why. If anybody, I'm on my soapbox now. I feel like Gunther Tootie in Car 54. Okay, here's what. If you watched the game, you saw this. Okay, and you saw this. It was Tony Romo, who I don't like very much, throwing a pass to Des Bryant. Okay, which would have changed the whole game. He caught it like on the 5-yard line and did this amazing circus catch, doing flips and tumbling all over the air, comes down, and a little part of the ball hits the ground after he's completed his catch and he's done all this stuff. and which would have put Dallas on like the 4-yard line, first and goal with like 2.5 minutes to go. They could have scored. They could have won the game and gone on to play Seattle in the Super Bowl. But no, the refs had to come in and say, oh, you know what? Gosh, we're just going to have to overrule that because he didn't do the right thing and just and so there are people right now in Dallas who are demanding that Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, go to Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, and say, you need to overturn that ruling and bring everybody back to the field and make that catch a real catch so they can finish the game the right way so that Dallas can win. I kid you not. There are people saying that.
Did the football actually touch the ground? I don't know why I'm asking this question.
It did a little bit, but see...
Doesn't that mean it's
well, hold on. The catch had already been completed, and he had done like 3 different football moves before that happened. So it should have been ruled the end of the play. And so that's what people are saying. I'm not an official. I don't know.
Now, how are you tying this into Obama?
Well, okay, here's the deal. President Obama was so upset about that play that he said to himself, I can't go to this rally in France. I've got to call Roger Goodell and get this thing straightened out. I'm joking. But I'm trying to think of a good reason why he wouldn't go. And that's the only thing I can think of. What do you think, Walt? Am I off base here? Drummers of the world unite. 721-1290. That's our number. That's John King over there. I'm Peter Christian. Walt Kero joining us a little early. He's our resident CPA, and he's going to be with us May 30 until 10, talking taxes. Yeah. So do you want to play the cut from John?
So Kerry was asked, why he didn't appear. Now Kerry, I think, had the best excuse because he's over in India and did have scheduled meetings go through. He is basically the workhorse for this administration at this point.
Well, he doesn't want to be at home.
Eric Holder had the least. He took a TV interview over just showing up on the street. I mean, he could have just walked down for a few minutes or whatever. I don't know. But go ahead, and this is Kerry's explanation. And I have longer comments. I've spent more time looking for these comments in video form than just about anything. I haven't been able to find. I've been looking since 5 o'clock this morning for this.
Wow.
And all I was able to find was this little segment. So here's part of his response.
Here we go.
The relationship with France is not about one day or one particular moment. It's an ongoing, long-time relationship that is deeply, deeply based in the shared values, and particularly the commitment that we share to freedom of expression. The President and our administration have been coordinating very, very closely with the French on FBI matters, intel, law enforcement, across the board, and we will continue to make available any assistance that may be necessary.
There you go. That's Secretary of State John Kerry speaking about why the President of the United States or any other high official, including himself, was not at that particular meeting, that gathering. I don't know. Well, that was only 29 seconds.
Well, whoever the videographers were certainly fell asleep because this is all they caught. And there's interesting comments before. He says, so Kerry he opens his speech, and I'm not reading a transcript.
You're paraphrasing.
I'm paraphrasing from my memory, but he basically opens the speech by saying people are quibbling when they charge us for not going to France.
Much ado about nothing.
Right, and says something, we want to be there, we will be there. He plans on being there later this week. I think Thursday he'll be in France to discuss how to fight terrorism. And he also, I guess he gave a speech in French, which I could have looked it up, but it wouldn't have done me any good because I don't know how to understand French.
Sure.
So, but apparently it was a good speech if you speak French. But,
well, not only that, but Kerry wrote in the Book of Remembrance in French, which meant a lot to the folks in France. So there you go. Just in case you're wondering, ladies and gentlemen, somebody was trying to do something. So let's get Tyler on. Tyler, second time in a half an hour. What's up, man?
Sorry, I couldn't hold back.
That's all right. Go ahead.
the truth or the reason why President Obama didn't go over there is borne out in his comments that he made publicly after the shooting in France. When he came out and said his speech last week, nobody really talked about it very much because it kind of just went under the radar. But in his opening comments, he said the future does not belong with those who slander the name of Allah.
That was actually a comment he made quite a few years ago.
Well, it was in his speech that he made last week.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. He said it kind of monotone, and then he kind of got the speech going. But anybody who believes that is not going to go over and show support in France for somebody, a magazine, who slandered the name of Allah. So there it is. That's why he didn't go, because he believes in what the terrorists believe.
Well, to me, again, first of all, I think he's getting really bad advice, and secondly,
terrible.
I just don't think he cares. He is. Put it this way. I've been watching presidential politics since Nixon resigned back in the 70s. Okay, I've been watching it very closely. All right, and I have never seen a lamer duck president, if that's even a phrase, than President Obama. It's like, what? I mean, it's like he can't wait to get done so he can go build his library and doing all the other things that former presidents do, and collect the speaking fees and engagements and that sort of thing. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like he's really into being president anymore. I mean, that is definitely something that a president of the of the major world power would want to be there in the front row, linking arms with the president of France. I mean,
there's another consideration. France might have actually asked him not to come so that they didn't have to boost up security to the presidential visit.
I don't know.
Trust me, they had 10,000 people on defense that day. Like snipers on all the roads.
Wouldn't have been a problem. Hey, thanks for the call, man. Appreciate it, Tyler. Mike's on the line. Good morning, Mike.
Well, I'll make one quick comment and make it short and to the point. Obama is a poster child for why young people should not do hard drugs, particularly smoke copious amounts of marijuana and drink copious amounts of beer.
All right.
All you have to do is look at the White House and know you should not do this as a young person. Might help if you did it as an old person, might get something accomplished, but...
conversely, I'm hearing the message, if I smoke marijuana, I get to be president. So.
Well, yeah. And you can ruin the country in the process.
Oh, don't forget the cocaine.
Yeah, he did a lot. He did cocaine every chance he got. So.
And he did inhale.
Yeah, and the point is, you look at the way this guy reacts, and I will tell you, I'd make a post on him and say, this is why you don't do these drugs.
All right, thanks, Mike.
That's my comment on this one, and I'll let you go.
Thanks for the call. All right, we're up against the break, and we are going to shift gears. Start. Can we quote you on that? Sure. Because taxes is it's a 5-letter word. Yeah. But tax is a 3-letter word. So anyway, we're coming right back in a minute. We're back on Talk Back. 721-1290 is the number. That's Walt Kero, the dirty tax talking man. Yeah. John King's over there. Hi, Peter Christian. We're having too much fun. It's only, it's Monday. It's the best day of the week, man. This is awesome.
It is. We're just straight, between Christmas and New Year's, my wife and I, my brother-in-law went down to Reno, Las Vegas, and Death Valley. There's a place down there called the Devil's Golf Course.
Perfect. Wow.
280 feet below sea level.
Was President Obama there?
I wish he'd been there.
Is it actually a... It's not actually a golf course, is it?
No.
It's just a big sand trap.
It is a big salt trap. Because that's where all the salt.
Okay, all right.
It's the bottom. It's the very bottom, and it just collects all the salt, and then it dries, and then it gets more salt and dries, and it gets pretty hard.
Huh.
Awful walking. It's probably a good 3,000-4,000 acres of this stuff.
Is it like walking on glass, or?
It's just like rough rock, only it's salt.
Wow.
Anyway, but
So
from up at Dante's View, you can see the
So
Devil's Golf
people
Course.
aren't clamoring to develop the area.
No. But there was a guy by the name of Scotty, Walter Scott, who has got a resort area. Well, not a resort, but he built a mansion in Death Valley.
Wow.
And of course, he was a shyster. He was with Buffalo Bill and worked in the Wild West shows and stuff. And he said he had a mine to sell, and so he generated a lot of capital.
Well, there are legends that there are lost treasures in Death Valley, and that people keep coming out of Death Valley with a couple of coins and some pieces of gold, and then they drop dead and they forget where they were, because I've seen those little vignettes about
they
lost
just
mine.
filed their tax return, right?
That must be it. And what a clever segue.
Oh, yes. Anyway, for the folks out there, everybody, on January 20th, you'll be able to file. That's when the IRS will be up and cranking and running. So
we have to wait till the 20th?
you got to wait till the 20th.
Well, that begs the question, will the IRS be up, cranking, and running? Because I've heard them whining that they don't have enough staff and funding.
Oh, yeah. Well, they are whining at some stuff I've got here. But, yeah, they lost about $346 million out of their budget.
Ouch.
And why? Why do you think that happens? I think because Lois Lerner set a precedent. When she pleads the fifth, Congress is going to say, well, if you're not going to be open and honest with us, transparent, is that what we call it?
Now, those cuts came through the Cromnibus bill?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So,
all right.
So does that mean that, like, if we send our taxes off this year, that they are going to be more delayed on getting it processed and getting returns
Well, they'll
back?
try to use that, but where you'll see more of an impact is, and I've already started seeing, is if I call to get a hold of the practitioner's hotline or the ACS, which is Automated Collection Services, instead of being on hold for a half hour, we're now up to an hour and a half. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, so what you do is you plan around it.
And that's you as a preparer, right?
Yes, yeah, and well, because they can't differentiate. There's one line that we do have for preparers, but still, the hold is still quite long even there. But that's just the name of the game. So you work around it. You say, well, I'm going to do this other stuff while I'm waiting.
Right. So while you keep your phone line engaged.
Do they have really good elevator music at the IRS? I mean, what do they play in the background?
No, it's kind of, there's something. I can't even remember it because I tune it out.
Basically, it's money, 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 money.
It's usually a boring statement. Says all of our taxpayer service assistants are busy helping other taxpayers. Blah, blah, blah.
But your call is important.
Yeah, so please hang on.
Stand by.
Yeah, yep.
If you're considering harming yourself,
so
dial one.
This budget cut to the IRS is unfortunate.
Okay.
In that aspect of taxpayer service. However, it will send a signal to the bureaucrats that maybe we ought to be a little more forthright, a little more honest in how we deal with the public.
All right.
Yeah, we'll see.
So are you saying that they are not being forthright in dealing with the
I
public?
think the experience of the past year with Lois Lerner and her cohorts, the answer is yes. Okay. I don't think they've been straightforward.
And let me ask you, because you deal with the IRS all the time.
Yes.
Has it ever really been resolved about what allegedly happened with all those nonprofit organizations that are tied with the Tea Party, whatever, that the IRS actually did target them? Has there ever been a decision saying, yes, shame on the IRS for doing that? We're going to slap you with a fine, or we're going to put somebody in jail, or we're going to fire somebody, or whatever?
No, there hasn't been a report that has come out.
Why not?
Well, because they're still waiting to have final hearings on that. And then, of course, Eric Holder's not going to file charges against the IRS or people inside the IRS.
He's not even the de facto attorney general anymore. He's already announced his stepping down.
Right. He is attorney general right now.
Yeah, I know.
Whoever the next attorney general is, same problem, though. It's going to be appointed by...
the Fox Garden hen house. You think the Fox is going to, call the hen house out? I doubt it.
Okay. All right. We're up against a break. 721-1290.
Already?
Yes. 1-800-568-5309. Now, this is really important because Walt is here to answer your tax questions. Believe it or not, folks, it is tax season. And as, of course, a famous tax preparing agency now says with their commercials as they're shoving big pallets of money out the window of an airplane, it's not tax season. It's refund season. So I want to ask you about that.
It's a catchy, good ad from that aspect, but not everybody gets a refund.
That's right.
So,
They say that at the very bottom.
yeah.
Not everybody gets a refund.
Even if we do your return.
We're going to come right back with more of Talk Back in a minute. John King and Stevie Wonder and
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but I can see today.
and Walt Kero is joining us here today. Okay, so we're talking about taxes, and I know that there's a lot going on. You actually sent us a list of things that you are prepared to talk about.
Oh, yes.
One of them, of course, is the budget woes at the IRS. That we kind of covered that a little bit. But you said you have something called the Tax Increase Prevention Act.
Yeah.
Of 2014, which was last year.
That was the label they gave the bill that was passed before they took their Christmas break.
All right.
And
it's a very attractive sounding title.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're known for that.
But is it legitimate?
It's perception.
Okay.
Well, mostly what they did is they extended a lot of the tax benefits and provisions that were in law, but they expire. And they do this every year just in case they can negotiate and get other provisions passed with other legislation. And this was kind of, all part and parcel to this was done. I think we found out done in conjunction with the passing of budgets, with all of the budgets done except for Homeland Security. Because the Republicans were saying, we're not going to pass the Homeland Security budget until we get this straightened out with your Obama's unilateral decision-making on immigration.
Okay. So there's a lot of gamesmanship going on.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Well, if you're into poker playing, it's a lot of fun. But it all boils down to, and I brought copies of this article from townhall.com about crony Washingtonian. But it's all about crony capitalism, and both parties are very guilty of crony capitalism.
Yeah. Now, I have heard, Walt, that because of the delays in passing this law and other things involving the IRS, that some of the legal changes in the tax laws came so late that one of the reasons why we can't file our taxes until January 20th is they won't have the forms ready.
Yeah, and actually they're better this year than a year ago because that was true. Now, the reason it's better this year than last year is most of these extenders that are part of this Tax Increase Prevention Act of 2014 didn't change the law. It just extended it again. Right. Whereas a year ago, there were some law changes. So that's why the IRS is actually a little bit ahead of the game this year because they didn't have to make very many program changes. Now, the way this works, you got Congress that passes a law, the president signs it in theory. So if he signs it, then the IRS has to go through and make sure all their forms comply with the recently passed law. And then once they get, there's all kinds of graphics and designs and all kinds of stuff that's involved with that. And so it's not easy. Then after that, all the tax preparation software vendors out there have to take all of that information and then get it into programs so that, the compliance can be done. Huge process. So it takes a lot of time.
Go ahead, John.
I was
going to ask you that. Let's say somebody has TurboTax or pick an online tax service, okay, and they purchased it at Costco, for $99 or whatever the price is, and it's last year or 2 years ago's model. I mean, will they be able to do their taxes with that, or do they have to buy an update or download an update, or what?
Buy an update.
Okay.
They buy an update, and so when they go to Costco or wherever they go and buy that, it's the current version. And TurboTax is usually pretty good on the federal taxes. They're not so good on states because states are. Well, they're like
there's 50
tentacles.
of them,
Yeah. There's 45 of them that have income taxes, and so they have. It's just like a big octopus with tentacles all over the place when it comes to state taxes. And then every state has a legislature that passes laws and makes changes, and so. You just, it's like the IRS only on steroids when you take into account all the states.
Wow.
It's mind-numbing.
Oh, this year, is this the first year that the healthcare mandate tax will be there?
Yeah, this is the first year that it'll be there. Now, last year there were some things that were already in play on the Medicare tax for high-income people. On withholding, if your W-2 was more than $250,000, they increased the Medicare tax from 1.45
John,
to...
you're in trouble now, man.
Yeah, you're in deep trouble.
So frightening.
And if your net investment income was more than $250,000, then you would pay an additional 3.8% Medicare tax on your capital gains and interest, dividends, rents, that kind of stuff.
All right.
Very.
Now, primarily, Walt, what percentage of the people will be able to get away with just filing just a simple easy 1040 deal? I mean,
oh yeah, that always brings up an interesting point. Is if tax preparers have been criticized by the IRS to say, well, you guys always file 1040s for all these people who could be filing an EZ or an A or blah 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 blah, and to us, it's just one button on the computer program,
right?
Because we don't care. I mean, we can do a 1040 just as easy as we can a 1040A or an EZ. It doesn't. No, that's not a big deal.
So why the criticism? Are they claiming you're making it more complicated than it needs to be?
No, because it's only just a function that the government makes it available because they're thinking broadly about all the tax people out there. Every taxpayer out there has got to file a form,
right?
And so if you can file as an EZ or on the phone, you got a W-2, you don't itemize, you don't have any kids, yada yada yada. Yeah, that's pretty easy. You don't need to do a 1040A, but from our perspective, it doesn't matter.
Okay. Now, what about the whole 1099 deal? Because in the last several years, we've been talking about, the rise of the 1099s. If somebody does work for you that's more than $600, you have to give them a 1099. They have to declare it, and they have to match them all up. I mean, has that been resolved or not?
No, it's still going on, and it's going to get more complicated because with Obamacare, there's the new form is 1095.
I can do that form for $10.95. Save you 4 cents.
Yeah, and for each input item on that form, add $10.95. It's kind of like peanuts. Questions answered for a quarter.
Wow.
It's yeah, and the whole thing with Obamacare, there's going to be the mandates will be coming in. The mandates are going to start taking place, and it's going to be tied in. The penalty will start.
Just so everyone knows, when we say the Obamacare mandate, we're talking about the fee for those that don't have insurance, right?
Right.
And so...
Yeah, but that's tax.
Right. It
Remember,
wasn't
it's not
sold
health
as a tax,
insurance,
but
it's a tax.
The Supreme Court decided it was a tax. And so how much are people going to be hit by when that rolls around this year? Because it's one of those things it's flexible, right? It grows. The fee for not having insurance gets higher every year.
Yeah, this year it's minor. I might be I can't even remember, $300. But then over the years, it's going to grow and grow and grow.
Speaking of growing and growing, we're going to take a break so we can grow our massive profits from this radio station. Wow, they're going, really?
Obscene profits, aren't they?
There you go. We're going to come right back. By the way, all 3 lines are open. Walt is here to answer your tax questions. So seriously, if you're getting ready to sit down and tear out what's left of your hair to do your taxes and you have a question or a comment, I'm sure Walt can help you or at least point you in the right direction. What's that?
We're here for.
What's that?
That's what we're here for.
Amen,
Help
brother. Okay, we're going to come right back. 721-1290 is our number. Lines are open. We'll be right back. Welcome, everybody, back to Talk Back. 721-1290 is our number. It's the tax show. John King's over there.
That's right. And Walt Kero is also in the studio, and
Absolutely.
he does not like staying clean and high and dry. He likes to get down in the mud with your difficult issues and problems. So give us a call. Give us a call. Give us the quibbling details of your industry or business or your household, and he'll have an answer for you. Sometimes he has to say, it's this or yes and no, or give us some interesting answer like that. But he always has some good answer.
That's right.
Or at least direction on where to go after that. So if you have a text question, give us a call at 721-1290. I notice you have a big stack of stuff.
Oh, geez.
Go ahead.
Every day.
Let's dive into what you got there in your hands.
We have about
Under the-
two
we were just
2.5 minutes. Go.
Okay, and I'll go quickly on this. Right. On the Tax Increase and Prevention Act, here are the things that got re-extended and their new sunset dates established.
All right.
The deduction for expenses on elementary and secondary school teachers is $250 deduction. There's exclusion from gross income from discharge of indebtedness on your mortgage.
Tell you what, hang on to those thoughts because we have callers now.
Good.
And we have a very limited time. So
John lured them in.
let's get as many as we can. Cody, good morning.
Hey, good morning. I probably shouldn't use my real name because I had a question for Walt about how does a small guy do like Google and those folks that are otherwise well-connected and get some of your money moved offshore? Is there a way at all, or is it just prohibitively difficult?
Well, it's not prohibitively difficult, but the whole thing is if you're a U.S. citizen and if you're living in the United States, even if you move money offshore, if that money creates income, you still have to report it. And what's happening now in the past couple of years, Switzerland entered into an agreement with the IRS so that the banks are now, instead of secrecy, the banks are disclosing to the IRS how much U.S. citizens have in those bank accounts. So
I understood there was some sort of loophole in that, maybe that would not trigger the reporting requirements until your account reached $50,000. Is that true or not?
Yeah, there's some minimums there, but believe me, the banks are going to disclose anything and everything because they're getting penalized by the IRS through their local government, through their, like the Swiss government. And they entered into that agreement, and they're, so far, what I can see, they're honoring it. So, yeah, but let's say
even though they don't have to report, what you're finding out is the general practice is if you have $1,000 or $5,000, it's getting reported.
Yeah, if that's income, yeah. But the $50,000 is a threshold amount for foreign financial bank account reporting.
Okay, tell you what, Cody, we are up against a break. We'll hang on to you just a second. Diane, if you'll hold on as well. We've got to take a break. Come right back after the top of the hour and get your questions answered. We have one line open. You can get in line for the Tax Master.
Yes.
himself.
Okay.
That's your new nickname.
Okay.
The Tax Master.
Okay.
And you have to say it that way, too. We'll be right back. We're back on the best day of the week. It's Monday. That's John King. I'm Peter Christian. Of course, joining us here at studio, Walt Kero, our resident CPA, representing Kero
Byington and Associates. KBCPAs.net on the website.
Okay, I want to get Cody back on the line because we had to cut you off time factors there. So, Cody, please continue. You have more questions for Walt.
Well, mainly I've been looking for the past couple of years to find someone who had any sort of knowledge or expertise in this field of offshoring. And in Montana, unfortunately, when you ask that question, people look at you sort of strangely. And I understand we just don't do some creative things here very often.
Now, Cody, let me ask you, are you trying to protect assets? Are you trying to hide wealth? Hide wealth, but protect. The thing is that one of the things that Walt is always saying is that you have every right to protect everything you can legally protect, right, Walt?
That's correct, yes. Yeah, and Cody, there's two aspects going on here because your questions can spin around two things. One is assets and asset protection, or income tax reporting compliance, because if you have a foreign bank account, if you've got less than $50,000, that means you don't have to file this FATCA reform. Right. It's FinCEN 114. But assuming it's under $50,000, if you have income from it, you'll still have to report the income on your income tax returns. Regardless, worldwide income, it doesn't matter.
Of course, but what if it's not realized income that's just, because isn't that what Google does, is they just take income and attribute it to their Ireland subsidiary, and as long as they don't repatriate that income, it just sits over there and is not taxed.
Yeah, well, it's taxed at Ireland.
Right.
And what the problem you have is you can't split yourself off and house part of yourself in Ireland.
Right, but what they're doing is actually just, and it's at least under the current law, it's perfectly legitimate.
Right.
Is to shift income to Ireland. And they do that through royalties, or they do it through rents, or they do it however they do it, mostly through royalties and moving copyrights and patents to Ireland, and then they pay royalties for those copyrights and patents. And so they shift income to Ireland, and that's taxed at a lower rate. So the easiest way to deal with that is the U.S. take away its highest corporate tax rate in the world, or next to the highest corporate tax rate in the world. If you drop those rates, that will reduce the incentive for people to push money overseas.
Right, but that we're dealing with C corps there. With an S corp, your income flow through is a little differently.
Yes.
Is there any way to do something like the C corps do as an S corp, or are you just, because of the way the income flows in an S corp, you're stuck no matter what?
Well, in either event, you see, they're not the C corp's not repatriating that income; they're just leaving it in Europe.
Exactly.
So, but on an S corp, if that S corporation paid European tax, it pays Irish tax, that tax credit will flow through to your personal return, and that would offset the U.S. income tax. Obviously, but if you're paying 35% U.S. tax and you pay 15% to Ireland, obviously you're going to still pay a 20% net tax to uncle.
Well, you seem to know more about this than a lot of people, so maybe I'll have to make an appointment, come in and see you one of these days.
Well, it'll be just grand. You can call Lacey at 549-2288.
I'm sure I could find you, Walt.
Okay.
549-2288. Call today. Call before midnight tonight.
Yeah.
Thanks, Cody.
Thanks.
Appreciate your call. Let's get Diane on. Diane, good morning. You're on Talk Back with Walt Kero. And by the way, we have two lines open at 721-1290. Go ahead, Diane.
Thank you. I have had a little LLC for the last 3 years. I'm just a hobby jewelry maker, and I never had aspirations really of being in business. I just wanted my hobby to not interfere with our personal finances so much, and so it's very tiresome filing all the nonsense. Required.
Yeah, really? I mean, that's the problem, being self-employed. It's a paperwork nightmare.
Well, I guess my question is given the fact that, really all I wanted, technically it would be considered, I'm sure, as, for profit. I have an Etsy shop, etc. But is there any other way to do this such that it's not considered a business, or is there some sort of hobby law way to go about the taxes?
Is there a hobby lobby somewhere?
I'm just wondering, so that I'm honestly reporting what goes on, but I'm not really considering it a business.
Yeah, there's no easy way around that. You could file a Schedule C easy. And you see, because you have to report your gross receipts, because that's, once you reach in self-employment income, once you reach like $400 of Schedule C gross receipts, then you're supposed to file. Now, if you're not if you don't have the intent to make a profit, in other words, you're saying you're a hobby, then you still have to file the forms and everything else, but you can't deduct losses. You can only deduct losses to the extent of gains. That's kind of like gambling.
Yeah,
but the whole thing is you still have to go through all that paperwork, and God forbid you hire an employee. Oh, geez. The paperwork requirements for an employee are astounding.
Even if it's just somebody on a contract basis?
No, contractor is different.
Right.
Employee is assuming you have a common law employee-employer relationship.
Okay.
And boy, oh boy, then you got W-2s, 941s, 940s, state unemployment, federal unemployment, state work comp, everything. It's just, whether you have one employee or 1,000, you still have all those forms to
So
fill
basically, each employee equals about 400 trees.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
Basically, there really isn't, I might as well just keep on keeping on then. And
Yeah, I would. Now, your LLC, is it single member, or is it just you?
It is just me.
Yeah, well, then you file a Schedule C for that.
Okay.
But do the EZ form, because that's easier to fill out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your help.
Thank
you bet, Diane.
Thanks for the call. Best of luck to you. We're up against a break. All three lines open.
Yep, we just cleared the lines. Give us a call. As you can tell, Walt's got answers for all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Whether you're running a jewelry business or trying to offshore your personal finances, we have answers for you.
Billions and billions.
Yes.
We'll be right back.
Carl Sagan.
This is Talk Back on KGVO. I still got it. Okay, I'm sorry. I just have too much fun on this show.
Yeah, why not?
Anyway, that means I have to start paying them now.
Life's
All right.
too short.
So let's get it's Milan, I believe, waiting. Milan, I'm sorry. Milan, you're on Talk Back. Go ahead, sir.
How you guys doing?
Excellent.
Great,
So what's on your mind?
I just got a question. Didn't we run a British out of this country because of a tax a couple hundred years or so ago?
Yeah, that's
I
true.
just have to laugh about it. How far we've gone.
But now, Milan, we have taxation with representation.
Yeah, right. And the whole point is at what point is it burdensome that it causes you to do other things, and that's what we're talking about here.
Right, and I think it is. Well, I think it's like a vicious cycle where, more taxes government comes up with, more they create the stuff with taxes. So then you got to constantly feed this bottomless pit. And I think it's just, we all know it. I mean, I'm not saying something new, but it just kind of saddens me.
Oh yeah, well, there was a very nice gentleman who I used to know, is no longer with us now, and he said, Walt, government's like a hog. The more you feed it, the more it'll eat. And that's what you're describing. And they're constantly looking for new ways to get fed, whether it's an internet tax or, it just goes on and on.
Just look at the city of Missoula.
Yes.
I mean, there's a plethora of ways that administrations, it doesn't matter if it's the Engen administration or any administration, they're constantly looking for ways to get more money into their coffers so they can do more stuff. Stuff that people legitimately feel like we need to have extra money to do this and this and this because people want this and this and this. We have to pay for it, so we have to come up with more taxes.
You know what my biggest beef with taxes are, guys, is when I improve my house, they tax me on it. They tax me on the fact that my house looks nicer than the one next to me.
Well,
my taxes go up.
Yeah, because it's worth more now. Yeah. It's worth more, all right? The net value of your house goes up, and that's how they determine your property taxes.
Yeah, and
I
believe
know,
it
but
or
I'm
not,
not
that's
making
in
any
the
money on the
Constitution.
improvement.
Montana's.
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jim.
I'm sorry, Milan. That's a requirement of the Montana Constitution.
I know.
That one's a hard one to get around.
It is, but no, it's just it's hard to process in your brain. I'm not actually making, let's say, money per se, but I still have to pay, more. I don't mind to pay a certain amount of property taxes, but then, I better myself. I'm working hard with my sweat equity and everything. I'm really just doing that and improve it. And then next round around comes a tax collector and says, "Oh, your house is nicer. You put a new siding, new windows. That's going to cost you more, a couple $100 more this year."
Now,
and it's something that I actually, taxes to me is on income. If I make more, I pay more.
Right. Now, Milan,
this one it's not.
Hang on just a second. I want to ask Walt something. What happens if you make significant improvements to your home inside, and it doesn't necessarily show outside, and your house is de facto worth more, but nobody really knows about it until it comes time to sell? I mean, did they come get you then, or what?
No, but if you make significant improvements on the interior, and if you hire electricians and plumbers, they have to get permits.
Right.
And the minute you get a permit, you're stuck.
So they got you.
Yeah.
Anyway, gentlemen, that was just my little pet peeve there, I got to say. So,
we appreciate your call, Milan.
You guys, good morning.
Thanks, Milan. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Go ahead, John. What do you got?
Elena says, "Love you, Walt, but why should anyone ask advice from a person who makes a living off the income tax fraud?" Nadelson was on last week about the so-called Commerce Clause, keyword not discussed, among, and she has among in quotes, applicable to the several states. Same term is found in the infamous 16th Amendment, among, also in quotes, the states and not the people.
Well, unfortunately, I'm going to try to comply with the law as it is, not as how you would wish it to be. And, I'm licensed. And by being licensed, I have to live within the parameters of the law. That's it.
It's like you take an oath.
Yes,
so
that's right.
All right. So let's get Bill on the line. Bill, thanks for holding. You're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Yes. Hello, Walt.
Hi, Bill.
How you doing?
Great.
Hey, listen, but last year in January, we took some money that we had in Roth that we made some money on over a few years, and we cashed out a couple Roths and did a small refinance on our house, and I paid cash for a rental piece of property. And this last year it's brought in about $10,000. And I'm wondering, we set up a separate checking account just so we could keep that separate from our personal day-to-day stuff. Well, both of us are, I would say, not not actively working. We have other income, but we're retired, so we have retirement income. How would that $10,000 or whatever money is treated on that house be treated? Would it be looked at as personal income, or we didn't incorporate that other checking account?
Right. No, that's fine. Distributions from a Roth, assuming that it's been inside the Roth for, I think it's 2 or 3 years at a minimum, is not going to be taxable, including the earnings and the gains that's in that. And that's the attractiveness of Roths, is that once you pay the tax on the income that goes into it initially, then whatever it earns and whatever its value grows to is non-taxable when you take it out. Now, there's some penalties on putting money into a Roth, and then if you take it out within 6 months or a year or two, then they have some penalties that apply.
It's 10%.
Yeah, but there's no...
That happened to me.
Yeah, but there's no income tax on it,
right,
because you've already paid the tax on it, and that's the law. So does that help you with that? It shouldn't be taxable.
That part I think I understand, because we had the Roth in. We had a couple different Roth accounts, so we cleaned out one a couple that had been there for a while. The thing about the $10,000 or rental income, how do I treat that?
Okay, the rental income has to be reported on what we call a Schedule E, as in Edward. And in there, you report your rental income and your rental deductions, which include, advertising, commissions, management fees, if any, repairs, maintenance, depreciation, insurance, property taxes.
And that's why it's wise to keep
stuff.
a separate account on those, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming there's no debt on this property, so
no, it's clear. So we don't need to file 2 tax returns.
No, the Schedule E is an attachment to your 1040.
Okay, that's good to know.
You bet.
Thanks, Bill.
Yep,
Appreciate the call.
Bill.
We're going to come right back, Larry and Bobby, and we have a line open for you, 721-1290. We're coming right back with more talk. This is what this show's all about. You have tax questions. The guy with the answers is standing right here, and it won't cost you anything except a phone call, 721-1290. Coming right back.
I try to work out.
Oh, baby. 721-1290 is the number. Glad to have you along. Okay. It's Monday. Can you tell? That's John King. I'm Peter Christian, and I just made that whole thing up right there.
I'm astounded.
That was short weekend for Peter.
Amazing.
That was Walt on the guitar.
Yeah.
And bass by John King. All right. Moving right along. Let's get Larry's been waiting the longest. Larry, thank you for holding. Go ahead. You're on Talkback.
Yes, good morning, Walt.
Good morning, Larry.
I've heard some things on the radio about the possibility of refunds being used to help fund Obamacare, and I just wondered if that was something you knew something about.
No, I haven't heard that. There are some crazy rumors running around, but they're not totally crazy. But there are a few liberal, progressive Democrats who are floating a proposal that the government would confiscate retirement money, but they wouldn't confiscate it totally. What they would do is require retirement money to be totally invested in U.S. securities. So you couldn't invest in Boeing or Microsoft or Apple with your retirement money. You would be forced to put all your money into treasuries. Wow. There is a few schemes that have been even proposed to do that. So
well, think about this, Walt. We're talking trillions of dollars that are out there that people just can't wait to get their hands on.
Yeah, I don't think it would see the light of day, but some people are out there using that as a vehicle to fund the deficit, the debt.
So under this proposal, would your 401ks or your IRAs suddenly that were invested in the stock market suddenly be transferred over to some sort of government treasury?
Yeah, eventually. I think they would probably have some transition rules.
If you want to see the pitchforks and torches come to Washington, D.C., just have the federal government try to rob people's retirement accounts.
Yeah, they shouldn't be allowed to do that. But I have seen some proposals to that effect. But they don't go anywhere because they know that But they've got like bills introduced to do it, but they don't get picked up by anybody.
You don't want to mess with what they call the gray lobby.
Yes, that's right.
I
I just thought that perhaps if you were signed up for Obamacare and you were having your income adjusted to qualify for any sort of rebates or anything, that if you did receive a tax refund, that might be go into reducing your rebate or whatever it is.
Now, is that a different story?
Well, that's a little bit different, but if you had a tax refund and you owed money for your fee, they would take that.
Yeah.
That's kind of a given. But if you have any kind of refunds, it's just, people out there in Radio Land ought to be aware that if the government's got a vested interest in that refund, whether it's state or local government or federal government, they're going to be, they're going to claim dibs on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know having an IRA for 30 or 40 years and all the rules changes on that is they just don't like to see you accumulate any kind of savings at all. So
they try to. Well, there's two things going on there. They don't want you to get too much benefit, but then also they want you to be protected, and you're just smothered in rules.
Thank you, Walt.
You bet.
But
okay,
remember,
thanks.
it's for your own good.
Yeah,
because they're care. We're from the government, and we're here to help. Okay, so let's get Bobby on the line. Bobby, thank you so much for holding. You're on with Walt. Go ahead. By the way, 2 lines open, 721-1290.
Okay, this goes back to the person that was talking about property tax. So during 2008, during the housing bubble, when that burst, and people, when they paid $400,000 for a house, and now the house is worth $200,000, did the property taxes go down to match the amount that you were paying, and now it's worth half as much, so they're going to cut your property taxes? They cut their property taxes.
Bobby, I can only give you an answer anecdotally. But I'll just give you my general impression is the answer is no. When Dan Bucks was the Department of Revenue Director, there were people up around Flathead Lake that, you couldn't sell your property. There were no comparables, no nothing, and the value of their properties went down. But the Department of Revenue, every 10 years, the Department of Revenue has to go through the cycle of reappraisal because, again, back to the Montana Constitution, all property is supposed to be appraised at fair market value. Well, it gets to be difficult to assign fair market value. But even though the Department of Revenue knew the value of those properties around the lake and elsewhere were going down, they didn't, to my knowledge, they didn't go down. Now, the people that did get smaller tax bills were the ones that became the squeakiest wheel. In other words, you raise as much hell as you can, but you have to go to the County Tax Appeals Board and the State Tax Appeals Board, and you have to present a case. So, but you can appeal that if the value of your property goes down.
Okay, thanks. Just
that
wanted
help?
to know.
Thanks for the call, Bobby.
Hey, thanks,
All right.
Bobby.
All right,
With that, we have
721-1290. Yeah.
Open phones. So
Yes.
give us a call. We have 3 lines open, 721-1290. Walt is willing to take all kinds of questions, give you the right answer.
And just coincidentally, it's what a coinkydink. It's 9:30 and time for our break. So we're going to come right back. Oh, the lines are going. Walt,
good.
Walt the rock star. We're going to come right back with more of Talk Back here in just a moment. By the way, the leopard pants, perfect outfit for you. Hey, we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number, and that's John King. I'm Peter Christian. Walt Kero, our resident tax rock star, is with us today. All right, Betty is on the line. Betty, good morning. You're on Talkback.
Hi.
Hi,
I
Betty.
have a question for Walt.
Go for
Walt, when do they stop taxing Social Security, when you have to add it to some of the wages you make because you're still working?
Oh, okay. If you're still working, it depends upon your age. If you're between 62 and regular retirement age, in my case, it's 66. If you make more, and the value changes every year, but if it's like a little more than $15,428 or whatever it is, if you make more than that $15,000, then they'll take on a 2-for-1 basis $1 away from your Social Security benefits in the following year, because they wait and see what your W-2 or your earned income looks like from, say, 2014, and then they'll go in during 2015, and then they'll adjust how much your Social Security benefit will be in 2016. So there's a penalty for that. But if your regular retirement age of 60, now it's 66 and older, those rules don't. That rule goes out. It doesn't apply. You could make $1 billion on a W-2, and they wouldn't ding your Social Security benefit. Okay.
Right. I know that part, but you do have to add it as income, and they seem to put tax on about 50% of my SS.
Yes.
Every year.
Oh, okay. Are you single or married?
I'm single and I'm 72.
Oh, okay. If you're single, and again, this changes a little bit, but they take all of your other income, and if it's less than $25,000, then they won't tax your Social Security. But once your income reaches $25,000, then they'll start incrementally adding in Social Security as taxable. And once you reach about $45,000, they'll go as high as 85% of your Social Security will get taxed. But there's a formula to there. It's a mind-numbingly complex calculation. It's a 3-tiered calculation depending upon how much you make.
Taxed at what rate?
Oh, it's just added into your income.
Okay.
So if you're in a 20% rate, then boom.
Okay.
Most people that have Social Security that's taxed are getting taxed. 85% of their Social Security benefits are taxed, added into your other income.
Okay.
And that's what you're getting at, right, Betty?
Yes, sir. That's exactly what I needed, and thank you.
Any other questions, ma'am?
That's it.
All right,
okay, thanks, Betty.
Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. That means all 3 lines are open at 721-1290. Go ahead,
That's
John.
right. Give us a call. I did want to ask Walt what he thought about Engen's proposed resort tax and gas tax.
Well, yeah, we kind of touched on that a little bit. Yeah. I just think don't give bureaucrats and elected officials any more money because they'll blast it away. And it doesn't matter which venue you're talking about, federal, state, or local. You give them more money, they're going to spend it like there's no tomorrow.
Now, of course, I'm sure Engen would say, but we're not giving the money. If it's a resort tax, it's other people flying into town. It's other people driving through. It's the truckers passing by on I-90.
Motels, hotels, restaurants.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing that wouldn't you rather have them? And then the poor family with 3 kids that are all having the flu and they have to pay taxes on their property that's so freaking high.
Yeah, those poor kids with the flu.
So, what do you say to an argument like that? I mean, but see, my problem is, I don't just want to know this is how much we can make. I want to know where you plan to spend it, and not only that, but on every tax. This is just a personal belief, but on every new tax, especially if there's a new tax, there has to be a sunset somewhere down the line. It can't just be in perpetuity, forever and ever. Amen. We're going to suck this out of your paychecks or whatever until further notice, until you die or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure if that's done. Is that done?
Some tax laws are created with sunset provisions in them. But not very many. I know, like the floating bridges out in Seattle.
Right.
At one time, they would, put on a fee for going across the bridge to pay for the bridge, and once the bonds were paid off from all the, from the tolls, then it went away. But some states won't do that. They'll just keep charging and charging and charging
because it's a piggy bank.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Sure.
Tell you what, I want to give Jeff, I want to give you plenty of time to get your question answered, so we'll take a quick break just a minute early, and when this break is over, we'll come to Jeff, and we have 2 lines open at 721-1290. I got a tax question. This is the only time you're going to get free advice, folks, unless you want to stay in line with the IRS for an hour and a half. Yeah,
just you can get free advice from Peter and I every day, but if you want good free advice,
or
you could ask Walt.
Or here's what you can do. You can call, and we can say, thank you so much for your call. Your call is very important to us. Please stand by, and we'll be right back. All right, we're back on Talkback, and Walt's pounding on the table again. What? All right. I know, I'm the table pounding sheriff. You all right? You okay?
Yeah, I lost it.
Oh, you lost it? Oh.
There.
Oh, 721-1290 is our number. Poor Walt.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Well, Walt's throwing stuff.
He needs to be able to hear our listeners. So let's get Jeff on the line. Jeff, thanks for holding. You're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Oh, hey, thanks for getting my call in, guys.
You bet.
Hey, Jeff.
So I had a couple questions about the Healthcare Act and the effect on taxes. I don't know if it's been talked about today yet or not.
No, not yet.
But my question is, if you had health insurance before the cutoff date, which I think was April 1 of this year, does that count for tax purposes, or did you have to have it from then until December 31st?
I think you have to have the health insurance coverage on hand at December 31st, but I can't guarantee that is the bona fide answer. It's what I suspect.
I think there's a whole bunch of different outs if you have certain life conditions as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, there's a gentleman who's actually teaching a course on the many ways that you can get out of having to pay that penalty, and that you can deliberately do. So,
but that's a good question, and I will get the answer.
Okay.
Locked in by a month from now.
Okay. And then my other question, I haven't quite figured it out. I've heard, I've searched on the government website a couple times, and I've heard through hearsay and everything like that. What is the penalty going to be exactly? And then also, is it still planned to increase every year from here on out?
Yes, it's planned to increase. I think it levels out at about 2017 or 2018. I can't remember which, but it's going to start growing significantly. It was only going to be like $195 or something, and then it's going to go to $400 or $500, and then to $1,000. And
I'll look it up. I'll give you the exact here in a second.
There is a table. I don't have the table committed to memory. Usually when a law passes, it takes a year or two for me to get acquainted with it. I have to do a few returns, and then it kind of sinks in. I need to go through something 2 or 3 times before I get it.
No, and that makes total sense. It's just the things that, I figured you guys would know more about than I have in my little bit of research that I've done. Because there was one part on the website that almost said it was a percentage, and if you make more than that, then it was a percentage. Or if you made more than $40,000 or $30,000, it was a percentage. And it made it almost like $800 in a calculation, and that was kind of outrageous.
Yeah, I think the percentages have to do tying in with how much income you make, but the minimum fee is just fixed. If you're at the low income spectrum, but you still, and if you have coverage, and you got to pay that. Now, some people are getting refunds because the refunds are based upon the credit that you're supposed to be getting to offset the cost of the health care.
Now, there's 2 mandates, right? There's the mandate for the individual who doesn't get it, but there's also a mandate for employers.
Right.
With 50 or more full-time equivalent workers, right?
And the Republicans are trying to change that.
Yeah, and the employer mandate just took effect. I mean, it
January 1.
Yeah, January 1 of 15.
Okay, so you haven't done any returns with that yet either?
Nope.
Anything else, sir?
And I've got a whole bunch, but not right now.
Oh, no.
Well, go ahead.
Go for it.
Give him one more question.
My other question is that how is the whole deal with the Healthcare Act going to affect returns and stuff, especially if you're claiming a child or whatnot? And then also, how does it affect if you didn't have health insurance earlier in the year, but you had it late in the year and it ended on December 31st?
Well, I do know that, you're supposed to have coverage on everybody. And so that would include dependents that are living with you. The dependents that are living with you can, there's a multitude of income tax factors that get into that, whether it's a dependency exemption, credits for child care or for child credits and child care credits and additional child tax credits. There's a whole, there's about 4 or 5 credits that can be tied up with kids that's beneficial. But in terms of Obama, the health care, we've got the individual mandate, and that's what's taking place in 2014. Now, your premium under Obamacare should be affected by having that dependent living with you, and you're responsible for them. So I would imagine there would be, another fee. John's raising his hand.
All right. The fee for 2015. If you don't have, this is from healthcare.gov.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And it's working for me. I went right to the website.
And
it
they're
opened
always
up
right, yeah.
All right. If you don't have coverage in 2015, you will pay the higher of these two amounts. 2% of your yearly household income, only the amount of income above the tax filing threshold, about $10,000 for an individual, is used to calculate the penalty. The maximum penalty is the national average premium for a bronze plan. So the highest you can pay is whatever the average cost of a bronze plan. That would be the cheapest plans on the Affordable Care Act exchanges. $325 per person over the year, for the year. $162.50 per child under 18. The maximum penalty per family using this method is $975.
$975.
So what they're saying is you may as well go ahead and get the insurance because you're going to be paying that premium anyway.
That's their whole goal is to get you in there.
Right.
Yeah, the other thing that's important to notice, and John mentioned it, household income.
Right.
That's different than adjusted gross or taxable income. That will take into account monies that come into the house that aren't taxed, such as welfare payments, work comp, you name it. It'll come into there. That's considered household income. It's a different concept than what income tax people are used to.
Alimony, child support, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we got you're about to blow, so we got to go.
Sorry, Jeff.
Tell you what, Ann, if you'll hang on, we're going to get your call. We have this is a quick 1-minute timeout, and we'll get Ann's question on. We also have 2 lines open and about 8 minutes left in the show. So if you want to get your tax questions answered, free, all together now. Free.
Free.
Come right
free.
back.
1, 2, 3.
Free.
Okay, we'll be right back. Oh, we get so involved in 1 minute. All right, 721-1290 is our number, 1-800-568-5309. Let's get right back to the phones and visit with Ann, who has been waiting very patiently. Ann, you're on with Walt Kero. Go ahead.
Can you list your medical expenses that Medicare paid under medical?
No.
Oh.
You deduct what you're out of pocket. So if the insurance company or Medicare or somebody else pays the bill, if you claim the full amount, you should subtract from that which they've reimbursed for, whether it's to you or to the provider. You should only be deducting what you're out of pocket.
Okay.
So, sorry about that, but that's the economics of what's going on.
Okay. Thanks, Ann.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Charlie, you're on Talkback. Hi.
Hello there. How you doing?
Good, sir.
Charlie.
What's on your mind?
Well, I won a couple $1,000s in a fishing derby, Mac Days.
Yeah, way to go.
And I was pretty lucky doing that, but I had to fill out forms, and I'm going to be taxed on that money.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering if I can deduct my gas money for going up there. And I did have to buy a boat so I could go up there and do a little more fishing and stuff. Can I deduct that stuff? Since I'm going to be taxed for my winnings, can I deduct what it cost me to go up and do it?
For the day that you won the award, yes. You can deduct, the cost that you incurred. Also, this is kind of like a gaming activity because didn't you have to pay an entry fee in order to win the award?
There was no entry fee.
There's no entry fee. Okay.
They pay you. They pay you for at the end of the drawing, but it goes on for like 30 days. It's a 3-day fishing thing for about 8 weeks or 9 weeks or so, and then at the end they have a big thing where they draw numbers and you get paid out cash prizes for.
So it's kind of a lottery.
Yeah. Well, if we can treat it, I can't guarantee it because I don't know all the nuances to what's going on here, but the law is specific. If it's gaming income, gambling, you can deduct losses to the extent of your income when it comes to gambling. So like if you go to a casino and you play, whatever you're playing, if you play the slots or if you play roulette or if you play blackjack, doesn't matter. In a whole year's time frame, you can deduct gambling losses to the extent of your gambling winnings.
Okay.
What's the fishing derby? So I don't know.
Yeah, well, you see, I would have to take a look at that. I would like, if for your benefit, if you buy a lottery ticket, you could, if the fishing derby was considered a gaming activity. But
he said that there is no purchase necessary to enter the Mac Day tournament, right?
Right.
You just show up, you fish. Every day that you fish, you put your name in a hat because you were fishing. And
Yep. At the end of the tournament, they draw your numbers.
It still sounds like a gaming activity to me because it's based on chance.
Well,
right?
There's a lot of expense involved getting up there. I mean, gas, it's $100 a day to get up there, so I'm spending a lot of money to get up there.
Oh, yeah, and for that specific day, I can see that. But for the whole year, for fishing.
Now, what about the boat?
Well, the boat is that's kind of a recreational facility.
Yeah.
And you'd have to capitalize it and depreciate it. But this is a 1 day or 3 day tournament, right?
It's about 30 days, actually.
Yeah, I know. But how many days were you in that?
Excuse me?
How many days were you in the 5?
About 15 days or so I fished.
Yeah, yeah.
I like this guy. I want your job.
Yeah,
sounds like Mark Ward.
What you're trying to get at? This was a revenue producing activity, but obviously it's a hobby. So you can deduct expenses to the extent of your income, and I think I've been saying that. But do you do any gambling other than this fishing derby?
I just buy Montana lotto tickets.
Okay. But my point is if you won $2,000 there, but if you bought $1,000 worth of lottery tickets, if this fishing derby is categorized as a gaming activity, then you could offset the two, and you'd only have to pay tax on the $1,000. Okay. But what I still think, because you won the $2,000 because your name got picked out of a hat, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. To me, that's a chance. That's gaming activity. I mean, even though you didn't have to put any money in it, it's still a gambling activity in my mind.
Hey, Charlie, we got to get one more call in. So real quickly, one more.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks for the call.
Well, that's a hard one. I mean, that's tough.
Yeah, work. Give me another worm.
How do I get a free boat, Walt?
Give me another worm, would you? All right, Kevin. Good morning. You're on Talkback. Hi.
Good morning, everyone. Hey, real quick question, Walt.
Hey, Kevin.
There's buildings commercial buildings that have been sitting idle around Missoula for if not months, years. How do they take a write-off on those buildings not producing any revenue to let the owners, or how does that work?
Well, technically, if you have an asset like that that's no longer actively producing income, you're supposed to just let it sit there as is, and you don't take any write-off. But the reality is, and most people who own those properties take depreciation, property taxes, insurance, those basic costs that they need to incur just to keep the property there. Most of the time, you don't want to have rental property being idle for more than a year or so. But if it gets to be more than 2 years, obviously, not only are you going to be losing the rent, you're also going to be losing value, because the market value on something that's not being rented is obviously going to go down after a while.
Okay.
So, but yeah, most people do get those out-of-pocket expenses.
All right, so we have exactly a minute and a half left. So give us some tax tips. What do we do to get ready for especially those who have to do their self-employment tax?
Okay, getting ready for doing their taxes this year.
3 days.
Don't be disorganized, so don't give your tax preparer or yourself a shoebox of receipts. Give all your paperwork to your tax preparer at one time. In other words, get your stuff together.
Or get your poop in a group.
I was going to let you say that. If you are using a tax preparer, talk to that tax preparer throughout the year if something comes up. Talk to your tax preparer before you sign a contract. It's better, you can't go backwards once you've done the contract.
Right.
This isn't like Nancy Pelosi where let's look at it once we sign it. Yeah, big mistake. If there's a potential problem with the IRS, tell your tax preparer immediately and get your paperwork to your tax preparer as soon as you can.
Phone number?
549-2288.
Good deal. Thanks, Walt.
Oh, hey, thank you. Great time.
He's the man. Now, what's coming up tomorrow?
We'll certainly have Pat Barkey. We may have the Montana family that will be featured on the show Sister Wives.
Wow.
I've got some good signs from Twitter, but not 100% guaranteed.
You guys have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.